This is Greg Fowler for Online London, and with me is Gloria Lee Jones, who's a candidate for election in Ward 4. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If elected, how many hours per week on average do you expect that you'll spend working in your elected capacity?
Well, I will admit, right now I am full-time employed and I do enjoy immensely what I do, but my boss is on notice so that if I am successful in winning, I will be resigning. So I will be working 40 hours plus and certainly available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Do you think ward councillors are currently paid enough for the amount of work that they'll be doing during the next term of City Council?
Well, you know, I'm not certain just how much more work that the ending of the Board of Control is going to do, but I do know this much. I certainly live within my means now, and that won't change if I am successful in this election. So I'm quite content with what they offer.
London's governance model is undergoing significant change, and as you point out, that includes elimination of the Board of Control. Do you think that this will increase the necessity for ward councillors to inform themselves about issues outside of their own ward boundaries?
Most definitely. And I do believe that a good councillor does not just consider what's best for their ward, but also takes the bigger look at the picture to see what is best for London as a whole. So yes, we certainly will have to be more informed, pick up that slack, and be prepared to work more.
Do you live within the geographical boundaries of the electoral area in which you are contesting this election?
I not only live there, I've lived there since I've been in London, which is over 30 years.
How many of your post-teenage years have you lived in London?
None of my teen years. I moved to London when I was in my early 20s, when my oldest daughter was 2. My oldest daughter will be 36 this year. So as an adult, I've lived in Ward 4 since I've come to London.
Have you attended any standing committee meetings over the last 4 years?
I have attended the Kips Lane Association meetings. As far as City Council meetings go, no, I have not.
Are you familiar with the Municipal Act and the Municipal Councillor's Guide?
I am somewhat familiar. I've read up on some of that information.
Strengthening neighborhoods recommended development of a neighboring matching fund type of program for large and small community projects other than celebrations or events. Do you support that recommendation?
Other than, I do support it, but I also believe that we do need to look at extending that to cover other areas that is not a part of.
What maximum per project amount do you think it would be appropriate for the city to contribute to?
I don't have an amount. I think that we need to look at what the objective is of the association and the committees. I believe we need to look at what they reach, who they reach in their mandate, and in population-wise, just how many people is affected or are affected by that, and make that decision based on all of those criteria.
Do you support development of a community program to fund the creation of public art in public places?
If it is something that the Londoners warrant, is something that will enrich their lifestyle, yes.
Should the City of London and its boards and commissions embrace the concept of making their data open and accessible to everyone as often as is possible, and adopting open standards for that data?
One of the issues that most Londoners have with City Council is the fact they don't trust anyone. And the reason they don't trust is because too many decisions, too much conversation is done in secret and behind closed doors. I am all for transparency and accountability.
When existing software applications have to be replaced or when software licenses have to be renewed, do you think the city ought to adopt the use of open source software whenever that's possible?
If it's an opportunity and a tool that will allow Londoners to know what is happening, yes.
Is the city's communication department being given enough resources, money and personnel, to properly maintain the city website and to inform citizens in a timely fashion?
At this point, I'm not certain just how much involvement that they have with what the Londoners need and require.
Should citizens be able to subscribe to subject-specific RSS feeds from City Hall in order to stay informed?
Yes.
Should citizens be able to download the agendas of upcoming public meetings, including advisory committee meetings, at least a week in advance?
By all means.
Despite the requirement of the Municipal Act that all City Hall meetings be public except for specific reasons, it's been argued that they most often are not because of the inability of the public to hear what's being said. Do you support the adoption of a policy which mandates the use of microphones in all public meetings at City Hall?
Yes, I do.
Do you think that the City of London ought to be webcasting all of its public meetings?
Yes, I do.
Should its boards and commissions be webcasting all of their public meetings?
Yes, I do.
Should chairpersons of public meetings at City Hall ought to have to announce motions and amendments to motions and the number of votes for and against those motions so that the public can understand what's taking place?
I think the more information that is provided to the public, the better the opportunity for the public to trust City Hall. So yes, I do.
Should London hire an Auditor General?
If it's a tool that will be used to determine where the London taxpayer dollar is going, where the best avenues are to save, and what we should be focusing on or getting rid of, yes.
Should homeowners have to pay a percentage of the cost for the repair of damage to underground infrastructure on their own property that's been caused by city-owned trees?
No.
Do you agree with the placemaking concept of neighborhood gateways?
I don't know what that is.
Should there be increased user representation on the London Transit Commission?
Yes.
If the city is going to provide venture capital to businesses, should it be guaranteed a return on its investment in the event that those businesses become profitable?
Yes.
Should people be allowed to naturalize their lawns?
Yes.
Are London's pedestrians and pedestrian issues sufficiently represented at City Hall?
No.
The traffic and parking bylaw prohibits people from using any sidewalk for any purpose other than pedestrian traffic, except as specifically permitted. Should downtown patios, which consume most of the width of the public sidewalk, be permitted?
No.
When closure of a public sidewalk for construction purposes takes place, what steps should be required to ensure that pedestrians are not forced out onto the roadway in a manner which puts them at risk?
Certainly better planning.
Is the warranted sidewalk program sufficiently funded?
No.
Is the warranted walkway program sufficiently funded?
No.
Old unlit streets aren't lit unless there's a local improvement program application and a cost-sharing agreement amongst local owners. Do you agree with that policy?
No.
Do you think special funding ought to be provided to London Police for the purchase of additional Speedwatch radar trailers and the cost of having the auxiliary police section deploy them on a frequent basis?
No.
Should the city be spending as much as it is per year from the federal gas tax to construct on-road bike lanes in London?
Yes.
Should bicycles be allowed on public sidewalks?
Yes.
Should persons in motorized wheelchairs and other mobility devices that are on the public sidewalk be obliged to yield for pedestrians?
Be obliged. I think there's a common courtesy that should apply, whether it's to pedestrians or to those that are in motorized vehicles, and that courtesy should be extended. That's what community living is all about.
Should the city install more bike racks?
Yes.
Is theft of bikes an important issue?
Not for me.
Is the city currently spending enough money to promote its web-based ride match service?
No.
Should there be dedicated and discounted carpool parking spaces on downtown streets and in city-owned lots?
Be a great way to get some revenue and solve our congestion problem.
Should every signalized London intersection provide advanced left turns?
No.
Does the city currently provide sufficient funding for the community gardens program?
No.
Should all dogs have to be muzzled when they're not on their owner's property?
Yes.
Should dogs be allowed at community events?
No.
Do you think people ought to be allowed to raise chickens in their backyards?
No thanks.
That ends the interview. Thanks for your cooperation.
Thanks for your time.